Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive this evening. I am Dave Valente. This week we are joined by AJ. Well, let me change this screen up. Hold on a second. That's not equal. That is not
You
equal at
say,
all. Hey, little AJ.
hello, hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good, good. Dan Fishman will be joining us shortly. He's probably getting ready as we speak. So
Will he
this
be a teeny weeny Dan too? Or
we could make him a teeny weeny Dan. That's what she said.
It's-
In fact, I might need to change Dan's name when he comes on here. Anyway, so tonight's topic, we are talking about the dysfunction of government. As either big or small L libertarians, we've come to understand that government sucks. Um, that government uh, should have a diminished role in our lives, and some of watching what has happened last week in particular, things in Washington have been going bad long before we have had we had the 15 round marathon this week. It's been going on a long time. Whether we're going from the second anniversary of January 6th, uh, you know, Republicans actually tried to celebrate that by having a fist fight on the floor after the 14th round. Um,
Mhm.
that would have been entertaining. And oh, we got a pun joke. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We try and keep it light sometimes. But we had the almost fist fight on the floor. We're regularly subjected to news. Politicians and journalists trying to divide us. Um, it used to be just politicians really trying to divide us. Now we've got journalists really jumping into the fray to foment this anger that we have for one another. If you watch any of the major news networks, any of the the even the smaller news, we are just being subjected to, these people aren't real Americans. These people are after this or that or the other, and they're going to make your life a living hell if they ever get in power. Um, it's just it's really frustrating to see. We're also been subjected to several years of a coordinated campaign by foreign powers to subject us to misinformation. Um, whether it was, Russian meddling in the 2016 election, 2020 election as well, Chinese doing the same thing. And, I'm going to say, just understand that they're not the only ones who do this stuff. We do this stuff as well in foreign
Mhm.
elections. Um, but, we've really had that tactic moved against us as well. Um, and then our politicians have also made this system much more unfriendly, untrustworthy to the average citizen to get involved in politics and to get involved in their local government or state or national government. Um, and we as voters have actually accepted this untrustworthiness and unresponsive government. I don't know, because we're just trying to survive, trying to get through the 9 to 5. Maybe that has something to do with it, but we also have to accept our role in what's going on in the United States. But yeah, it's been a very interesting last few years when it comes to politics. So AJ, what do you think about the reasons or causes behind our dysfunction?
Oh, there's a list, honestly. But I would say my biggest is this odd human desire that people have to control other people and the excuses that they find to do this. Well, my God says that's a sin. So we should probably not let people do that. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's your God. That doesn't actually affect me. But I think that you should act this way. And oh, ladies ought to cross their legs and guys ought to open doors. And if you're not doing these things, then you're absolutely wrong. Not to mention the fact that we have social media inspired speed. So any hate that is put out there, it's put out and then it's immediately everywhere. Like the tweets, we were talking about this. The tweets that get retweeted the most, they're not the nice ones. They're the mean ones. They're the hateful ones. They're the shocking ones. And Trump was given a leg up because we all, joked around, "Yeah, Trump's gonna be the nominee." That's hilarious. What are those Republicans gonna do? Holy shit. That's who got nominated. And
Yep.
how did that happen? He spread like wildfire. "Oh, what did Trump say this time? Oh, he said something shocking. Oh, we've gotta share that. We've gotta retweet that." What's wrong with politics is the humanity has been completely removed from it. People we can disagree on politics. Yeah, we can disagree on politics. We can disagree on taxes. We can disagree on the Department of Education. We can't disagree on human rights. That's not that's not politics, you know? So, social media has definitely allowed things to spread and go much faster and further than they would have.
You're right,
Hey,
Craig.
yes, Greg. Yes.
Exactly. When your religion, I have a tortured relationship with religion, but um, uh, when people tell me that this is their religious beliefs and their religious beliefs should take precedence over anybody else, just yeah, definitely fuck right off.
Pretty much, and I mean, the Libertarian Party did allow me to meet people of much different backgrounds and culture than myself, and, little country girl from Tennessee, so, yeah, that was great for me, that was growth, but it also allowed me to see religious people that weren't the awful, awful Bible thumpers that I avoid at Walmart, like, "Oh, no, I know who you are," "We'll just duck down." Yeah. It allowed me to see that not all religious people are assholes about it. It's weird. Like, they're
No,
not all like these red conservative, "Rah," at you. It's neat to see. It does exist. It just
yeah.
doesn't necessarily exist so much in the government right now.
Well, in politics, I think politics really lends itself to, it's like an HOA. It lends itself to people who don't know how to mind their own damn business.
Yes.
And so when you have this fervent belief that yours is the only one true religion and that all your beliefs should take precedence above all over others, your vehicle is the government to try and do that. And um, yeah, you're right. We've met some fantastic folks that are hardcore religious people. I could think of like Jared Hall or Hody Johns. These guys are just fantastic. They believe in religion. They give you their belief. They talk about their belief, but they don't impose it on you. Like I've never been asked to go to church or to change my belief system. I've through discussions with people like them have been able to open and broaden my perspective, um, but it doesn't require me to either change my ways or to impose my beliefs on anyone else or their beliefs on anyone else. So, um, yeah,
Really big, big difference
you're right. I mean,
between
we've
sorry.
had we're good. We've had issues where I think social media does play a massive part in what's going on with our because yeah, you're right. The news stories are able to spread. When it was you'd come home and you maybe flip through your local newspaper or watch the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite as your only news source. Um, uh, that's how you, there was much more of a filter on what got through to you. And yeah, maybe some stories were buried because they were local stories that didn't get that the newspaper may have had a bias against, or but there was also work on. Oh my goodness, why are
Birds
you
aren't
putting?
real.
Yeah, birds aren't real, especially your Philadelphia Eagles. They aren't real. They lost or they won by 6 over a team that was playing a bunch of scrubs today. So
Do you
um,
remember what the big story was before 9/11? Do you remember what all the 24-hour news I love this question because most people don't remember this. It was a huge news story that was on everything, every single ticker, like every other segment was about this. Do you remember? Without
Are you, I mean,
Googling.
so there are a couple of stories that I know that was talked about. There was one about the missing billions of dollars by the U.S. military. But I mean, overall, over that year was the dot com bubble crash and the like Arthur Anderson and Enron and
I
things
forget
like
who
that.
you are. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this name and you're gonna be like, yep. Chandra Levy.
Oh,
That was the big news story. The only
God.
thing that got her off the air was 9/11. Now, do you have any idea how that story wrapped up and ended?
It was, yeah, actually, I do. It was uh, a guy who had killed her in the park. It was immigrant, I think, and of course, the congressman got blamed because he was having a relationship with her. Gary, I can't remember his last name. Condit, Gary Condit.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, good memory. I'm impressed.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
remember. I haven't smoked away everything in here.
But no, the ticker. I think the beginning of the 24-hour news, that got us, and then social media picked it up and went further, and it got so much worse. But I don't remember 24-hour news until Chandra Levy. Like, I don't remember it. I don't remember
Oh,
9/11.
I do. I mean, I remember. Of course, I remember the first Gulf War, where Bernard Shaw and
The ticker. Mm.
Holloman were not so much the ticker at the bottom, and there was ticker at the bottom. I'll tell you a story about 9/11 and the ticker, but um, you know, 24-hour news did change some things, and the rise of Fox News showed that news could be a political animal that
Mm.
influences and brings, and then you had MSNBC, kind of take the diametrically opposed, and CNN just hemorrhaged viewers to both of them, and then they decided we don't like the Republicans, we're going to kind of play the centrist Democrat
I mean,
angle.
can you blame them? I don't like the Republicans either.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Just
But, you know, I remember 9/11. So I'm sitting at home one day. It's like the day or 2 after 9/11, and of course, we've been watching news the entire time, and I think it was Fox News I was watching at that time, had 3 tickers going on at the same time. One was going the top was going this way, one at the bottom was going this way, and I think the one in the middle was kind of going this way, and I started staring at it for a while. And have you ever seen the little game where, like, it's like the swirl thing, and if you look at it for a while, and then you look at your hand and your hand kinda morphs?
yeah, yeah.
Well, that happened. I looked up at the screen and the dude's face just morphed like this. I was like, "Oh, god." And so I learned not to look at the news ticker. But, yeah, I mean, so, 24-hour news cycle comes along and uh these stations have to come up with news, have to come up with something to keep people interested, 24/7. And, so it went from Gulf War One to, Monica Lewinsky, and that whole rigmarole for 3 or 4 years. And then it went right into, there are some smaller stories, the dot com bubble burst, the Enrons, and all that stuff. Chandra Levy, all that happened. And then you go into 9/11. But by that point, we were starting to see the polls shift in the news to really be hardcore Republican, hardcore Democrat. And the Republicans what rode that wave on Fox News's popularity into, for the first time really having all three sides of government. They had the House, the Senate, and the White House after George W. Bush, and then 2002 they unprecedentedly won more seats in that election, the off year election, which usually goes to the opposite party. They won more seats in that election. Um, but yeah, so
I do
you've
like
got.
David Bowie. Don't you talk smack to me. I'm sorry.
Uh-oh,
I know you're speaking. I just shared that actually. So,
very
like you
nice.
know me. Just gonna yell at commenters.
There you go. Yeah,
Terrible.
Gore oh god, Gore versus Bush, the hanging chads, all that fun stuff.
Oh
Um,
gosh, the hanging chads. That was a costume at Halloween the next year
yeah,
because
yeah,
people are so creative.
exactly. Um, but yeah, I mean, so you get into, these news cycles, and news is becoming much more partisan, and they're hyping up that hate. You know, Democrats, the Fox News, the Democrats are doing this, and they're gonna cost us this, and national security this, and war on terror that. And then the Democrats are like, Republicans want to take your social security, and Republicans want to throw grandma out on the street, and make her eat dog food. Um, yeah, so that as we move from the MySpace world into Facebook, and Twitter starts to come
Ugh.
along, and you know we now have sources to internet news. And you know what, I love Twitter at the beginning, because Twitter was the place where I found out, like, 2 hours before it broke on international news, that Kim Jong Un had died, and or Kim Jong, whatever the middle one, Kim Jong Il, yeah, Kim Jong Il, had died. So I was like, oh man, this is a great way to find out news before it happens. But I think people flock to it for that instant news satisfaction, and the Russian agencies, Chinese agencies started saying, "Okay, well, we can start percolating these news stories that sow distrust in the U.S. government, so that everybody hates each other and hates the government, doesn't trust anything that comes out of the mainstream news." Um, which mainstream news has no one to blame but themselves on that stuff. When you look at what has happened with our news over the last, what, 30 years now. God, that sucks. 30 years. But
It's like most of my life.
I graduated 30 years ago. That hurts my head. But you know, eh, we get these stories, and it got so quick. Like, you'd see a story out there, and I called it outrage porn. You'd see a story, like, you'd just read the headline. The red headline's written provocatively. Democrats do this, and if you're a Republican, man, you're like, oh, goddamn Democrats. You just share that out there, and all of a sudden, your friends and friends, and we've uh as we've gotten at each other's throats when it comes to politics, we tend to wean those people out of our friends list, and our little social media circles that have differing opinions. Um, so
That's
now
true.
all you're seeing are these stories. Grandma shares this story. Ted from two towns over, some guy that you've never even met, but you've been hanging out online playing World of Warcraft, is sharing a story about this, and you see it like four times. You're like, oh, it must be true. And it's not. It's absolutely not true, or the headline is written as clickbait, and the story actually says completely the opposite thing of what the headline says.
Or
Um,
nothing at all.
yeah, or nothing
Clickbait,
at
the
all.
majority of the time, it says nothing at all. It's just like,
Yeah,
"What?"
yeah. Uh, Sometimes it's just a way for you to click and see like 35 ads.
Mhm.
You know, um, people monetized off of this stuff, and it's sad, but that's the media's role. The politicians' role is that they have, they've made the system far more convoluted. Outrage porn.
Yeah.
We'll have a story about porn later, so stay tuned to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
exciting times.
it is exciting time. No real porn, but outrage porn. But, yeah, I mean, the politicians have made the system untrustworthy, because they do these ads making these massive promises, and as soon as they get into office, they don't enact any of their promises, and sometimes that's a good thing. A lot of the promises I see during campaign season are just, throwing money out the window. I don't mind that, but we're okay with, uh our politicians lying to us. Like, people have just kind of come to accept, well, they're just saying something during the campaign. It doesn't really matter.
Well, that's what kills me, and when you okay, I was discussing this with a family member, and she said, "I'm just not sure that they should be held to such a high standard." I'm like, "Why shouldn't they be held to a higher standard?" We elected them to do a job, and that is to represent the will of the people, that is us, and if they're not doing that, then they're not doing their job, and if I didn't do my job, I would be fired. I mean, I'm just
Exactly.
saying. You know, and not only would I be fired, but when they called back for a reference, they wouldn't lie and say, "Oh, yeah, she was great. She was great. Left of her own free will. It wasn't like, we escorted her out, you
Yeah.
know?" But what the crap? Why aren't politicians held
Yeah.
to any standard, honestly? I mean, and okay,
Yeah,
I can
because
maybe answer my own question. Um, Donald Trump. Like, we put a reality TV star in the White House. Like, there's nothing is there coming back from that? Like
the
like,
jury's
was
still
that the
out.
beginning of the end?
Oh, yeah, the jury is still out definitely on this because you're talking about we hired a guy that, if there's one thing to be said about Trump is that he was honest about his dishonesty. Like, when somebody, when somebody questioned him about, or said something about, him taking advantage of the system, he was like, "Yeah, absolutely, I took advantage of the system. That's what I do." So, yeah, exactly. I mean, he is a turd, but um, he was open about that. I mean, he's an open book about his sliminess. And again, I think that's because we've accepted that politicians will lie to us and not hold them to account for their lies, so that we've become desensitized to it, and we just kind of, oh, who the Democrats put up, oh, okay, who the Republicans put up, okay, whatever, um, who's going to do what I want, and you just kind of flip a coin at the end. Like I've always said that politics is like, for most Americans, is like the Olympics. Comes around every 4 years. You talk about it for a couple of weeks, and then you go and screw off for the rest of your life. Now it's become much more. A lot more people pay attention to it now because of what has happened the last couple of years. But it's still, for the most part, a lot of people just, I don't really care. Just leave me alone or let me do my thing. And that's the problem, is that the politicians don't want you to do your thing.
No. Most people are like, "Oh, well, I don't really worry about politics because, I've got real problems." Because, yeah, I mean, we're trying to pay for medical care and education's not what it used to be. And, eggs are like really fucking expensive and we've got actual problems. So we can't pay attention to all the drama in Washington, D.C., except that, yeah, the Republican Party did spur something, and either they spurred, "Yeah, brother, we're with you," or, "Oh, fuck no, like, that we don't want this at all. Now we have
Yeah,
to pay
both are.
attention, we have to participate." And then they went and, ticked off all the women. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? So, yes, you are right. People are way more involved in politics than they ever were before. A lot of that can be, we can thank social media for that as well, because people are more informed, even if it's colored and turned and twisted depending on, which news media is putting it out. Um, they're getting something, which
Well,
is
they
more than they used to get.
they are, but that misinformation has, them thinking that everyone not with them is against them and is going to destroy their lives. Um, one of the things that has happened as a result of the media piling into politics, the way it has, and the politicians turning the system into just a joke, is that we've sportsified politics. Like, people have
What was that word?
made sportsified.
Sportsified. I
We
like
have
that.
made, as much as I will say, I'm a huge Buffalo Sabres fan. That's like a big part of my identity, is rooting for, a team that's been downtrodden for so long. But I'm also a Yankees fan, who a team that has been so successful for so long. but it's part of your identity, and we've made the politics a part of our identity, and that we get so invested. And I used to, I mean, I will admit, back in my unknowing days when I was part of the Democrat and Republican Party and Libertarian Party, to looking forward to election day because I thought that's like the game. You're watching the score drop down, and are we going to win the game? Are we going to win the game? And uh, people have made it so much of their identity that if they lose, they feel like they have failed. They feel like they have the investment in politics when they really have nothing to do with why their candidates sucked or didn't suck, and uh, you know you don't really win anything unless you're the politician. You get that salary in a new office, but people think that, oh, my side won, Republicans won. But in the end, what does it get you? In the last year, we've gotten massive inflation. Well, the Democrats won in 2020. We got massive inflation. Uh, you know, uh, with the Republicans, we got massive lockdowns and trillions of dollars in government spending. You don't really win anything with with this sport, like,
People don't win anything.
yeah,
We the people aren't getting crap.
no, we're
We
we're
the
getting
people are
less.
only getting the bullshit that comes along with other people putting their will upon us. I mean, it just it's
No,
so
the only
odd to me that it all comes back to control.
well, and
Like,
the only people that are winning and the only people that benefit are the people who are politically connected, who
mm,
give the big money to politicians. Although it's not just the politicians, the money that they give to the politicians, it's not that much when you think about it. It's better than playing the stock market. They let's say you give the maximum to a politician, which is 2,600 in the general and 2,600 in the primary. Um, that let's say you also do something called bundling, which is you are a major fundraiser for a politician. So you collect several hundred people's $2,600 for the election, and then you collect additional monies for PACs and the National Republican Congressional Committee, the National Republican Committee itself, um, and same with the Democrats. I'm not just picking on the Republicans here. um, those are the people who win when the election happens, and it's those people who are connected, the lobbyists, the defense contractors. Those are the people that win because they give a lot of money to these candidates, and in turn, the candidates, when they get elected, take all that money that we dump into the government through taxes and even more, because it can print money, and just hand it off to these contractors, hand it off to the Elon Musks of the world, to the Jeff Bezos of the world.
to the
Um,
corporations that can afford the
yeah,
lawyers that get the grants from the government.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's it's a completely perverse system that we live in now, and it's ripe for all the distrust that we have in it. It's ripe for all of the manipulation that we've seen uh, with the corporations getting trillions of dollars every year, our government agencies misplacing trillions of dollars. Hello, defense budget. Uh, it's just it makes me mad, um, to watch what's gone on with our government and to see the apathy. We're at each other's throats, which doesn't make sense to me. The throats that we should be at, the ones that we should be angry at, are the politicians. But we're at my neighbor has a Donald Trump sign in their front yard. I'm mad at him because he's a Trumper. Or my neighbor over there is a Joe Biden, and let's go Brandon. It
Ugh,
doesn't. Yeah, I know. It
I'm
doesn't help.
absolutely surrounded.
Yeah, it doesn't help anyone. Oh, Oh, fashionably late. I'll let him get on camera before he comes on. But Dan Fishman has joined us. But yeah, I mean, we're far more likely to yell at our next door neighbor over a political opinion than at Matt Gaetz for whatever the last 5 days were.
Oh,
Um, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend.
Hey, let me
hey.
pull down the curtain. Sorry, mea culpa.
Oh, it's all good.
I got a little hung up in today's football action.
So, who won the Packers game?
It's still going on, but Detroit is ahead right now.
Nice.
Which, yeah, as you can imagine, my wife is a huge Bears fan. It's been a good day for her. What's up, Craig? What's up, people? It's been a huge day because the Bears got the #1 draft pick
Oh my god.
as a result of this, the most remarkable play ever.
We'll talk about the NFL
Okay.
playoffs and all that fun stuff in a little bit. We're still talking about the politics and what's going on.
I heard you say Matt Gaetz' name. Just don't say it 3 times or he'll appear.
No, he won't, because none of us are under the age of 15, so we're good.
Nice.
We're safe. Somebody said that the reason why the speaker's vote ended when it did was because Matt Gaetz loses interest above anything above 15. So,
Interesting. I mean, it was a crazy thing. I really am disappointed that the Democrats didn't game it more. Right? I mean, they should have voted for who the other 20 people were voting for. That would have been hilarious.
Oh my God. We could have had Speaker Trump.
Well, I mean, I wanted them to vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene because that would have been really funny. But they were supporting somebody else, right? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, Jim Jordan.
Who was
it?
It
was Jim Jordan, and there's Brian Donalds from Florida.
Donalds for a while.
Yeah. You said Jim Jordan, and I thought you said Commissioner Gordon. I'm like, Commissioner Gordon would be an awesome speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a weird thing because the opportunity to really, to really fuck with somebody is so high there because the way democracy is so broken anyway. But I guess they decided not to do it, or they didn't think of it more likely.
Oh, we got a score update.
Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you what, Packers is a team nobody wants to play. But going back to this thing, it's interesting too because he gave up so much that he's essentially hostage to them because now one person can trigger this exact same thing to happen again, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave him that he had to give up committee things, stuff like that. It's insane. The only thing I can
don't know.
hope
Does this mean that they're going to be so busy arguing amongst themselves that they're not going to be able to make laws against us?
I hope so.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, could that be the worst thing that happens?
Yeah, it would not be the worst thing that happens. To answer the question in the comments, I have no Bowie 8 tracks. There were 8 tracks around, but really by the time I was listening to music and playing music and stuff like that, cassettes had made it.
When I first moved to New Mexico, my dad bought this old 1972 truck, Chevy truck, and the only thing it had in it was the antenna was broken on it, so the only thing he had was an 8-track player. So he went to Goodwill. This is 1988. He goes to Goodwill and buys several 8-track tapes, and one of them is the Godfather soundtrack, and so this is the exact song. So we're riding down the road in Albuquerque. Now, Albuquerque can get hot in the summer. It's, of course, it's a dry heat, but it's like an oven sometimes. It was 105 that day. And my dad pops in the 8-track. It had been sitting in his truck all day. Pops in the 8-track and he goes, da na 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 na. And my dad, he was like, no. He pulls out the 8-track, and that tape is like mozzarella string coming out of the 8-track player.
Now, Dave, did you ever have to fix a cassette tape.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
the
AJ, did
the
you ever have that experience?
pencil.
I did actually. It was my
Wow.
mama's and the papa's cassette tape. I remember I had to do that a lot because it wasn't originally mine. I think I stole it from my
Nice.
mother.
I definitely fixed a couple. I had the Beatles Red and Blue album, which was really just their greatest hits. And man, I played the crap out of that thing. And
Yeah,
like when it broke and fixing it with tape on the other side of it, and it's
Mhm.
crazy. But then one of my happiest experiences involving the same material, and I'm sorry to take us off topic, was when I first went to school at UMass Boston for my CS degree. There was a parking lot under the school. The whole school was raised up, and you had a like a parking pass, like you've seen the paper ones with a little magnetic strip on it. Well, in the CS lab, we built a reader for those things. And as it turns out, they're really straightforward. And you can build a reader and a writer with just a cassette tape player. And all that they put on there was the time. And so when you left, it just said what time it was. And so we figured out, oh, just everybody before you leave, come in right in the current time. And it was under 15 minutes. You didn't have to pay. So it was awesome. I'm like, crime pays.
yeah. You're gonna get a bill from UMass Boston for like
I'd be
$13,000
like,
for
"Oh, we here."
parking fees and arrears.
The It's funny though, because what's funny about that is I still use my UMass Boston account because at least in the CS department, they give you your account for life. So like the other day I was testing something, I needed someplace else to put it right up there. Awesome. In fact, when I show you all my cool new things next week, part of the demo will be hosted at the UMass Boston website.
Nice.
Ooh,
Very exciting.
All right. Looking
yay.
forward to it. Yeah, you've had some changes this week, so we'll talk
I
about that
have,
later.
I look forward to talking about them next week. This week, I'm all about football and the speakers race and
Yeah.
whatever else we want to talk about.
So, I think we've kind of gone over kind of the historical causes of what's gone wrong. Talking about media getting in bed with politicians, politicians fomenting this anger, and really our apathy towards the politicians becoming worse and worse over the last, especially over the last decade since just before Trump really started running. We just stopped caring. Like we don't care that a politician lies to us as long as they're on the right team.
Yeah.
Um, but I- you know, uh, it's not just the United States anymore. We saw today where Brazil had its own uh, January 6th. The angry supporters of Jair Bolsonaro decided to storm the National Assembly and storm the uh, put a ring around the presidential palace and storm the Supreme Court in Brasilia, the capital city. So people don't know anything about Brazil. Brazil has a planned capital city, kind of like Washington D.C., but it's much younger, where they have the like this plaza, and on one side is the presidential palace, the other side is the Congress, and then another side is the Supreme Court. These
And it's in the
protesters,
middle of the jungle.
yeah, it's in the middle of the jungle. It's really, you know, kind of like what they did with DC because DC was in the middle of the swamp. It was land that neither Virginia or Maryland were all that interested in having. Um, but it was a nice compromise because it would be kind of centrally located, the original 13. Um, it's amazing that we've seen somebody replicate what we did on January 6th. And it's
Yeah.
two of the largest democracies in the world. The United States and Brazil having elections and this kind of reaction to losing these elections. Where does it go next? Where do we export it next? Or does Brazil do a violent enough reaction to kind of get people to think maybe twice about doing something like that?
I don't think that a violent reaction uh, encourages people to stop. It's just like, spanking a child doesn't teach the child not to do anything. It teaches the child that power is good. So, a violent reaction is just teaching people, well, then I got to get power so that I can take it out on everything else. The only solution, the only thing that ever ends this is to have us all come to an agreement. Government shouldn't have so much power that it's worth fighting over. It's the only thing that can fix it, because we're never going to agree on the issues. It's a critical break that, and we shouldn't, because the issues are, what do I get to do with my life? Dave, AJ, and Dan are never going to all agree on what everybody should do with their life. And the epiphany that we get to is, I don't want to have to care about what you do with your life. I mean, your friends, I'm interested in talking to you and I wish you well and stuff like that. But I want you to live your own life and make choices. Like, I'll give it a little prelude: live and let live. Right? I mean, that's the core of what we want. So if we're going to say live and let live, and have that sort of be our credo, then we want to talk about things that are tolerance, consent culture, compassion, empathy. Those things are all really relevant to this idea of live and let live. And so we don't fix anything by a more violent reaction to people trying to storm the government, because what do you do? Well, so Dave and I aren't parents, but at least I don't know that you're not a parent, Dave, but
Cat dad.
okay. But when a child gets into a power play against a parent, the winning role for the parent is to not engage in that power battle. Say, we're not going to fight about this, because you fight, you're talking about power. So if we can find a way for the people who want to seize power and say, you know what, all the power is going away now. You want to argue with me about whether or not you're going to watch TV? I remember my mom did this. So I had a childhood where television watching was very restricted. I think I've mentioned this before. We were only allowed to watch 2 hours of television a week. And that didn't count Sesame Street or Electric Company, but all the other stuff. And at one point in time, I would sneak out in the morning so I could watch cartoons. And when my sister was born, she's 9 years younger than me, I would pick her up and take her out so I could keep her quiet so she wouldn't wake my parents up so that I could watch more cartoons. And
I love this.
Would bring my brother with me too. My sister's 9 years younger than me. And bring my brother with me. And when we hear my parents stirring, he would go and turn the TV off and we would just be there. My mom would be like, oh, what did I have such good boys? Let us sleep in. And then one day she came out and we were really into what we were watching. And she caught us and she saw what had gone on. And she understood immediately we weren't good boys. We were doing what we had to do to watch TV. And she picked the television up overhead and threw it out into the backyard. It broke. And so we didn't have a TV for 6 months, which sucked. But there was no more power battle over that because the power was gone, right? The TV was gone. And it's the same thing. It's the only thing that's going to stop us from fighting, is to agree that government shouldn't be about power. Government should be about doing all the boring things, right? Okay. I mean, you want to argue about roads. All right. Let's just say that we're going to say government's going to do something with the roads. But gosh, let's not have it be something that's so important and so powerful that it's public education or other things that we would say. It would be nice if government didn't do these things, or occupational licensing, or any of these other things that we could take them away and things would still get done. And then we wouldn't have to fight about this stuff. The only reason people are fighting is because somebody tries to make them do something. That's it. You can't you can't find any other fight amongst adults. Somebody tries to make you do something. Now, sometimes somebody tries to make you do something by taking something away from you or stealing from you or something like that. But it's always about somebody does something to try to make you do something. So let's stop doing that. Let's stop trying to make other people do things. It is a Danalog. I'm sorry.
I love it. And we were wrapped. What are you talking about?
Anyway, but that's my point. So I hope that whatever happens in Brazil, and I will tell you that I do wish Like, I mean, there's always that part of me that, the Schadenfreude where you want something terrible to happen. You're like, oh, it'd be awesome if they just shot them all. But I don't really want that.
No, yeah, I mean, you don't want a bunch of people getting mowed down by the military or the police or whatever, but I don't know. I mean, unless we have just a complete change of heart right now, I think that that's probably an option that a lot of governments are looking at. If something such as that happens,
Yeah.
that the wait them out and push them out is kind of a black eye on those countries. So
Well, Adam makes a
you
good
know,
point about Italy electing a neo-fascist. The thing is that you want to, we can go back, right? Trump is a response to Obama. Obama is a response to Bush. Bush is a response to Clinton. I mean, Clinton, wasn't as hated as Bush was. Bush wasn't as hated as Obama was. Obama wasn't as hated as Trump was. But we're always in this cycle of the other party gets in and does things that galvanizes. And honestly, right? If I were a conspiracy theorist, hint I am, I might think that the Republicans and Democrats are actually using a continual state of crisis and never ending debt to keep us voting for the opposite side each time. Because otherwise, if they weren't fighting each other, there's no way that we would justify the excessive power that government has. So
oh yeah,
this is
we've
where
made
we got to go.
yeah we've made politics a zero sum game, and of course when you do that, you're going to get rewarded with zero eventually. So
Right. And
how
and and
far?
the problem is that nobody ever takes you never hear the other side say,
Adam,
you know what, we made them do that. Hey, Adam. Nobody ever makes you never hear Democrats say, you know what, we pushed the Republicans too far on this issue, and that's why we got Trump. Or, you never hear no Republicans say, you know what, we might have gone a little far with the Iraq war, and that's how Obama got such a big win.
yeah.
And until people start owning that part of it, we're not going to get anywhere.
No, what we got was blaming, well, those stupid, fat, dumb Midwesterners voted for Trump.
Flyover country.
Yeah, flyover country voted for Trump, or those neoliberals on the coast voted for Obama, and they're imposing their will on us, and they did it again with Biden. There we're placing the blame on the one point where we actually get a say, the
Right.
voter, but it's really the everything else. All you know, 4 years between those big national elections that are driving all of the problems that we have in our society right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. American style democracy does not scale to 330 million people.
No, I've said one thing that people are it kind of blows their mind, but if we had a rep for every equal to what Britain has,
Yep.
we'd have over 3,000 reps.
If we went by
That's
what's
how
in the Constitution, people can
yeah.
look it up. It's still in the original text of the Constitution. One representative for every 30,000 people, right? We'd have a much more representative body of government. The problem is,
Yeah.
if there's one rep for every 30,000 people, we have 300 million people in the country. That means there would be 10,000 reps.
And people were like,
Don't
"Oh,
check my math.
yeah," but people would say, "Oh, you're going to get gridlock out of it." Well, we got gridlock. Like,
Get
Right.
gridlocked anyway.
yeah,
Like it
you
doesn't
got 300, you got
as long
3,000, you
as
got
it's two
10,000. It doesn't
sides,
matter.
I think it will always be a gridlock as long as it's just the two sides.
But
And I don't know, I'm not as smart as y'all, I'm not as educated
that's
as
not
y'all,
true.
but I do feel like I that's exactly what we were warned against, because maybe they knew what they were talking about. I mean, I
Yep.
don't like to go with what do the founders mean this? What do they didn't mean anything. They were specific. They said that political parties are the way to doom. They were very specific about that. And if we're going to quote them on anything, Why wouldn't it be that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the power struggle that you're talking about. It's what uh it's sports.
Yeah, and Adam, before he left, he put in something really cool in the chat where he was talking about, and I talked about this several times on Facebook this week, that the Republican Party really is in effect two parties. That they've got the establishment, I call it the swamp party, the establishment party, which is the majority of the party, and then they've got the guano party, which is the Matt Gateses and Lauren Boberts and the Marjorie Taylor Greens. That Marjorie Taylor Greene now voted for Kevin McCarthy because she was given a promise early that satisfied her, but she would be in the other party if they actually did effectively split. Um,
Right. And the
I
sad
would
thing
think it would
is
be better if they actually split.
there actually is a very small third section of reasonable, rational people.
Yeah,
And I disagree with Thomas Massey on a lot of things, but I find him to generally be a reasonable and rational person, somebody who doesn't want to extend the power of government. But all these guys want to do, and the party is the problem with the split of the party is that they're unhappy that the other guys aren't ruling the way they want them to rule, that they're not governing the way they want them to govern, that they're not being the bosses that they want them to be. It's not
they're
that
not
they're
imposing their will.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that they're saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do this." I mean, it is interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what happens if these 20 uh, vote to kill the next omnibus, right, or raise the debt ceiling.
That's
Because if they do that, that would be great. I'd be very happy. On the other hand, I'm pretty convinced that the Democrats will bail the conservative Republicans out
Oh
at
yeah,
that point in time.
yeah. In fact, I think it makes it easier for them to go ahead and vote against it, knowing that the Democrats will bail the GOP out of it.
Right.
Um, but you know, it's a mess, man. It's just sad watching all these institutions that you grow up with, and you when we were younger, they were much further away in our field, and that we didn't really have to care about what happened in Washington D.C. We just did what we did, and now Washington has become much more imposing on us.
Right.
And I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Getting the power out of Washington. I hear people
Power to the people.
talk about getting money out of politics.
Yep. I
Um,
mean, money
you're
out of
never going to
politics.
Yeah,
Just
you're never going to get the money out of politics. You get them until you get the money out of government, because that's a big pot.
That's exactly it. So there's this idea in physics of what's called a closed system, right? And I think we've had this
Yeah,
conversation before. In a closed system, the amount of energy that's in the world, that it's inside the closed system, can't change because the energy can't really go anywhere. It always stays within the system. And if
yep,
you think about it, right, we talk about that with the earth a little bit, right? Sun comes down and energy gets stored in fossil fuels and then it gets released again, but it's a closed system. It's that same energy that's put there. Energy is never created or destroyed, or energy
yep.
is never destroyed. So political power is like that. Political power is a closed system. Okay, there is no new influx of political power. There's only the political power that exists, and the source of it is the people. And the only way government gets any power is if the people agree to give government that power. Thomas
Absolutely.
Jefferson said, right, derives its power, just power, from the consent of the governed. So we had this idea of, people were giving some power away to government. And then government started saying, oh, you know what? We can give some of that power to corporations. So we will, using the power of government, what the sovereignty clause, right? Government can refuse to be sued. And they said, you know what? We're going to extend that power to corporations, so that now a corporation can exist, and the people who are in the corporation, the officers, they can't be sued. because we're extending our sovereign power of government. So now it becomes this incredible cabal, right, where government wants to take more power away from the people and give it to their corporate masters who pay
Yep.
them handsomely for it.
Yeah,
But
but I mean, it's not like investing in the stock market because there's risk in the stock market. There's no risk in giving money to the government because the government just turns around and pays you handsomely for really pennies on the dollar when you think about it. You know, $30,000 campaign gift to a dark money PAC turns into several $1 million government contract
right,
or benefit. There's nothing really that there's no downside to it. There's no
right,
risk to it.
right.
And people say, yeah,
And
well, the guy might lose, but look up corporations who give money. They have what is called a good governance fund, and that good governance fund hedges their bets. They give money to the Democrat, they give money to the Republican, and they give a lot.
yep,
And so it doesn't matter who wins the election, the corporation is going to win because they gave a lot of money to whoever's in power.
right. And it's interesting to see too, like there's some corporations like that pillow dude, right? He didn't give any money to the Democrats, but pillow biter, whatever his name is. But it
Nothing
is
wrong with that.
it's I don't know. We're in a crazy place, and money has a lot to do with it. Although I will say that I think the ACLU got their opinion on Citizens United right when they said, "Look, the problem isn't political spending, because political spending is essentially speech. Whenever you try to restrict speech, you're walking down a slippery slope. The answer to other people's extended political speech is to find a way to amplify all speech so that everybody gets a way to have their message heard."
Yep,
Which, like, you could host a show that's on YouTube, something like that.
something like that.
How would you
All
watch
right.
that show?
That's a great question. Dave, how would we watch that show?
How would we watch that show? Let's see. I think I've got something here. Whether you're getting the best in news, politics, and pop culture each week with the Political Deep Dive, or you're enjoying the latest news from the world of hockey on the Thursday Night Hockey Show, we thank you for watching, but you may wonder how you can help grow the show. Head on over to youtube.com/Papaduke. Click subscribe to see our content show up on your YouTube feed. Click on the thumbs up button on the video to let us know that you like our content. Click that bell icon to get notified when new content drops or we're live. Each of those things lets YouTube know to put this content in front of more people. The more people we get, the more people engage and improve our content. As always, we thank you for being a loyal viewer to our shows. These shows would be nothing without you.
Good bumper.
So head on over to what's that?
Good bumper. Yep. Everybody, please click
Yeah.
the like, subscribe, and the bell. We need you. We need people to like the show because we're putting out pretty good content, good conversations. More people need to see them. That'll happen if you click the like button, if you click the subscribe button.
Yeah, and James Savina, right, as well, Twitch, whatever you're watching on, YouTube, Facebook. I'm even on LinkedIn right now. So, but one thing we've started doing, or I've started doing on YouTube, is every weekday morning I do a morning news minute. So we highlight a news story, talking about what's going on in the world, and try and get you a little prepared for the day. I try and do it before 10 a.m. each morning, so that you can check that out. And
Are you doing it in that new format that's kind of like TikTok shorts? Okay.
Yeah, doing the shorts format, so it's like a minute long, so you don't spend a whole bunch of time on it. and gets you a little more informed on the day. So again, hop on over to youtube.com/Papaduke, Papaduke, and give us a like, share, and subscribe. We are so close to 100 subscribers right now. So if you can give me a subscribe, that would really help. Once we get to 100, we get a lot more control over the channel to do more things. So, you guys ready for the quiz?
I'm
We'll
ready for the
see.
quiz, but come on, people, subscribe.
Subscribe. All right.
Like, aren't you shaving something? If people subscribe, wasn't there a thing? You were like,
Yeah. Yeah.
clean
100,
face.
100 views. I'm shaving. So you get to
That's
see the
right.
baby
That's
face.
right.
You get to see the baby. That might scare some people, but that's all right. Um,
I will bleach my no.
I'll bleach my nether regions for you.
Mm.
It's a
All
whole
right.
different channel.
Yeah, that
Right.
we'll get to that story later. All right. Question number 1. NFL player Damar Hamlin suffered an on-field medical emergency this week. He is a valued member of which team? Pittsburgh,
I-
Cincinnati, Cleveland, or Buffalo?
Obviously, we know this. AJ, do
Yeah.
you know?
Have bills, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice
Okay,
job.
say I absorbed it.
All right, let's talk about the real assholes in this story, though. Those assholes are the anti-vaxxers who
Oh
have
my
been
God.
going nonstop claiming that vaccines cause this. That is the dumbest piece of bullshit I've ever heard. Anybody who is at all a sports fan know that this sort of thing has happened before, right?
Oh yeah.
Chris Pronger in St. Louis, Charlie, what the hell is his name? Played for the Lions, died on the field in the 70s. And it's a huge thing in youth sports. So in
Yeah.
youth sports, they talk about it all the time. And now we bring AEDs to games. AED is an
Defibrillator.
automatic, huh?
A defibrillator.
Yeah, automatic external defibrillator, and they're amazing. So, like, they're so simple. You open it up, and they start talking to you and say, "Is there a person having a heart attack? If they are, please attach this lead to their skin here and here." You do it. It says, "Nope, that's in the wrong place." Okay, I'm now testing this person, and then it'll either say, "I need to shock this person," or we'll say, "This person cannot be shocked," and it's amazing. So first, I want to go back though to the anti-vaxxers who have just been going nuts on this thing and quoting complete bullshit. Okay, this is a thing that has happened before. It's not happening at any greater incident. In fact, it happens so much is that there is it's 100 deaths a year from cordio commotio, which is essentially the blow to the heart. Which is crazy, right? 100 deaths a year. And this is in youth athletes.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's uncommon or unheard of. And instead, you have these people who are saying, oh, we've been looking around the world and this is increased. There is some evidence of a little bit of cardiomyopathy. People are not dying from it. The vax definitely didn't cause this. He
No.
got a blow to the middle of the chest.
And they're like, well, athletes are dropping dead. Anybody who remembers Hank Gathers or
Yep.
I was watching that game, the St. Louis game versus Detroit, where Marty Lapointe slapped a shot that hit Chris Pronger in the chest, and luckily for Pronger, it was more towards the side. It didn't cause him quite the. In
Yeah.
fact, Chris Pronger, this is kind of talks about how strong hockey players are. Uh, was playing 4 days later, and
Yeah.
you know, but it's hit him in the chest, and he gets up just like Damar Hamlin did. He skates two strides, and he already tell he's starting to go down. He collapses, gets back to the room. Um, Again, didn't have as bad of a cardiac event as Damar Hamlin, but Damar Hamlin literally died on the field
Yes.
for a moment.
Yeah. Well, and
And
so let's be clear about a couple of things. We don't know exactly what happened. So one of the things that's true is that a defibrillator doesn't bring you back if your heart has actually stopped. That is an unshockable rhythm.
There has to
Okay.
be, yeah. There has to be a rhythm.
All right, we got a nurse here. Right.
I'm not a cardiology nurse, though. Like, I do cases and stuff, and you do see anybody that has been in a traumatic car accident where the airbag has deployed. If they show any sign of anything, they automatically will have an EKG and an echo to check for structural damage, because the heart is a muscle and it can be bruised and it can be, you know, uh, there's a lot that can go into this.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, y'all were doing very well with the medical side of it. I didn't see a whole lot of point in speaking up. I imagine the violence that comes along with sports is comparable to car accidents, and that's about the only thing that I see. I don't see a lot of athletes' medical files in mine, because those are they don't usually have like private insurance and stuff, so I don't see that stuff. But I do see enough to know that a hard enough hit, yeah, it can throw you out of rhythm. That's the reason that's one of the first things that first responders ask when they roll up on the scene is, what is your history? Do you have any cardiac history? Especially if those airbags have deployed.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why they ask.
Yep.
So
So I'll tell a little bit of a personal story here. I boy, it was a long time ago, but I always think it was about 10 years ago. I think I told a little bit of the story before, but I thought I was having a heart attack. This is when I was working at Mass General. I am not the first overweight man to mistake GERD for a heart attack.
mhm,
But and like 6 months beforehand, my dad had had a stent put in. He had felt discomfort while running. So it was in my head. Went in, saw a cardiologist. And as it turns out, I have an abnormal EKG. My family does. My dad has the same issue. So when they first saw it, they're like, "Oh, there's something really weird. We're gonna go in and do something." But then they do this nuclear test where essentially they give you dye and they see what's happening inside your heart. And the cardiologist comes out, he's like, "Nah, that guy's heart, it's fine. He just has a weird test, and that's it." So knowing that was good. Um, Fast forward like 6 or 7 years, and uh, I haven't been to the doctor for a while because I'm a man and we're dumb. And I go see my PCP, and he's like, Dan, it's been 5 years. You should go see another cardiologist. It's like, but you don't have to go see somebody at Mass General. See somebody close to your house. I go. The guy says, okay, we're going to do all these tests, everything, including I did this test called the Halter test, where you essentially wear sensors for 24 hours and it monitors your heart. And I come back and he tells me, he's like, well, you had, I can't remember what it was, ventricular something or other, the lower heart, he said, at like 2 o'clock in the morning, started doing this.
tachycardia.
Yeah, well, not just tachycardia, but a very rapid, because tachycardia is just general rapid heartbeat. This
Yes.
is sort of a vibration of the lower chambers of the heart, where they sort of do this very rapidly. And it's the worst kind of the arrhythmias to have. There's a whole bunch of different ones. And so he's like, we think you should get an ICD. I'm like, what's that? He's like, it's essentially a defibrillator that we put inside your body. And it's run by Bluetooth, and we make a little hole right here. We implant it, and then we put a lead into 2 veins in your heart, and then it will constantly monitor your heart. And if your heart ever has an unnatural rhythm, it will shock you back into normal rhythm. I'm like, well, first of all, that's really cool that thing exists, but it sounds very invasive. And what's the impact on my lifestyle? It's like, he's like, the only real impact would be for people who are aggressive swimmers or tennis players. That's not, you couldn't do that anymore. And well, it's interesting because I grew up My dad is a scientist, and he taught at a medical school, University of Texas Medical Branch. And so I grew up thinking that most doctors I mean, this is a true fact. You don't have to be smart to have to be a doctor. You just have to have strong memorization skills. That's not the same as being smart. So I was aware of the fact that there's not a lot of there aren't very many smart doctors, but there are some. So I was thinking about this, and I was trying to decide whether or not I want to do it. Very invasive. I wasn't sure that the risks were that high. And then I happened to be having a dorkathon, which is a LAN party. A bunch of guys come over to my house and we play computer games. And I mentioned this scenario, and one of the guys says, he's like, "Well, let me ask you something. Do you have some sleep apnea? You're a fatter guy." I'm like, I do. He's like, sleep apnea invalidates the a late night reading because you could be snoring or coughing or something like that, and it's not an accurate reading. The other guy said, "Oh, you know what?" He's like, "Where did you go for this thing?" I'm like, "Oh, I went to Salem Hospital." He's like, "That's an Epic hospital." And people who don't know, Epic is this giant computer records program that is taking over everywhere. If your hospital doesn't use Epic, it will sooner or later. Their motto is "Resistance is futile." And he said to me, he said, "Dan, Epic knows that you have a Cadillac insurance plan and that this is a possible diagnosis." So all of a sudden, Epic says, "Ding, ding, ding, $70,000." And we're doing no real harm to the patient because, right, doctors and surgeons don't think of what they do as invasive. So I went in to see my PCP at Mass General. He's like, no, he's like, "That sounds crazy." He's like, go talk to my cardiologist. And so I talked to another guy. He's like, "Yeah, no, you're fine." But I learned everything I need to know about cardiac arrest as opposed to heart attack, right? Heart attack is plumbing. Cardiac arrest is electrical. There are videos out there of several soccer players, including the guy who just played for Denmark in the World Cup, who have the ICDs. And so the guy who played for Denmark didn't have this. There's a guy who played for Holland, and he is walking down the field, and all of a sudden he just collapses, just like we saw Darren and other people. He just collapses, but he had an ICD, and so he collapses. People run over; they're not sure exactly what to do, and then all of a sudden you see the implanted device in his body. He just goes, and he sits the fuck up. It's unbelievable, right? A medical miracle. We live in this age of medical miracles.
Yeah.
And so, the full circle on that, Darren was very lucky that he was in a place. I mean, it wasn't lucky, it was good planning too. But there were people who knew how important it was to begin CPR immediately and to continue it, to bring in the AED, use it at the appropriate time. And then they got him in the hospital. They got the ambulance, which has obviously greater capacities. And the other thing I would say to everybody is that learn CPR. Easy to learn.
Yes.
Yep.
And you never know when you're going to need it to save a life. Okay, that's my piece on that.
Do another Danilog.
Good job.
Question number 2. Which former pope was laid to rest this week and became a popesicle? Pope John Paul II, Pope Paul VI, Pope Pius XII, or Pope Benedict XVI?
I know that he had an egg dish named for him.
Benedict.
Yes.
Awesome.
Pope Benedict the 16th got it.
Yeah. Remember, he resigned after like a month in office.
Well, I give him credit because the Catholic Church put in a rule that said that like cardinals and bishops have to retire at the age of like 75. And he, they didn't make that rule for the popes, but he stuck to it. So, I mean, I give him credit for that. I mean, he had kind of a shady past. Wasn't, I've not been a Catholic
Right, exactly.
for a long time, but, At least he did that. So
Right. I mean, right. There's certainly allegations that he'd had some connections with some of the more unsavory elements of Germany's past.
yes, did not see that coming. Let's see. Question number 3: which seed did FDA recently add to its list of major food allergens? Chia seeds, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, or poppy seeds?
Well, like everybody else, I learned the jingle: 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. If no, that's what's on a Big Mac. And so if there was a major sesame seed allergy, I think
Yeah,
we would know about it because the Big Mac would be killing people.
billions
Is it
served,
chia seeds?
millions died.
Chia
I'm
wouldn't surprise me. Pumpkin seeds would. Poppy wouldn't surprise me either, just
I
because.
think we'd heard more about poppy though, for the same reason we'd heard about sesame seed, because the
Yeah,
poppy seed buns or
I'm just wondering
muffins.
if government has a thing with where they're because poppy seeds invalidate drug tests that they're trying to get people to stop eating poppy seeds. But I agree, chia makes the most sense to me.
Yeah,
I have
I'm
no
thinking
idea
chia.
though.
Yeah,
What does the audience
same.
say? Oh, James says pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
Ooh,
Should we go pumpkin?
All right,
Do it.
I'll go.
Oh,
James.
it was sesame
it
It
seed.
was
was
sesame.
sesame
Wow.
seeds.
Sesame joined a list of major food allergens defined by law, meaning the foods containing sesame will be subject to new labeling and manufacturing requirements. For several years, the FDA has been reviewing whether to put sesame seeds on a major food allergen list, which also include milk, eggs, fish, crustacean, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, and wheat and soybeans.
Hmm.
Ah, wow. So
Well, now we know.
your Big Mac is just going to come with a like a smoker's label. Question number 4: huge crowds line the streets of which country this week to pay tribute to soccer great Pele? We talked about them earlier.
I
It's a
mean,
lot of people.
I don't know that you can say the huge crowds didn't line the streets in other places as well, but Pele, of course, is from Brazil.
Yes. So hundreds
So
of
that
thousands of
must
people
mean
poured into the streets of Santos, Brazil, to
Yeah,
view Pele's funeral procession this week. Three-time World Cup winner died at the last month at the age of 82 due to progression of colon cancer.
yeah.
hmm,
He should have run for president. He would have solved the problems.
Yeah, well, until he died.
Yeah.
Question number 5: which airline announced it will give 25,000 frequent flyer miles to passengers who were impacted by its holiday travel meltdown?
I'm assuming that would be Southwest. Are they actually going to make good?
Yeah.
Well, they are. I don't know about. I know that when I got the credits after all the COVID cancellations, um, the dirty thing that airlines would do is uh, they would let you use the travel credit, but you didn't get any deal. So it was like almost a full price first class ticket that you were buying. Like if it was on a travel website for $300, you're getting charged $800 for that ticket to use your $250 travel credit. So I don't know if they're going to do the same thing with their 25,000 frequent flyer miles, making all of their their flights 30,000 frequent flyer miles to fly, um, just to get past this. But
Yeah.
yeah,
To put it in context, I'm on the Southwest site right now, and you can get 50,000 miles by applying for and getting the Southwest credit card and spending $1,000 on it. So, it's all relative.
So
yeah, that's some BS right there.
they took a lesson from the government and said, give them a couple $100 and they won't care that we
You're
shut
not
down
even
all the businesses.
you're
That's
not even
cute.
getting it. Yeah, but you're not even getting a couple $100 because if they're giving you 50,000 miles just to do their credit card that's probably going to give you like one free flight.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I'm looking at my account right now, and I have 35,000 miles. and I've traveled a fair bit on Southwest in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, yeah, it's probably one free flight,
That's
but
no.
I mean, they were never going to give you cash. So
No. Although I think, well, because it was part of it was weather related. I don't think they have to, but I know that there are some rules that say if they do have to give cash.
right.
But all right, question number 6: which COVID-19 variant of Omicron has become the most dominant in the U.S., causing the most new coronavirus cases? I I just don't
I
I have
heard
know.
it was
no
happening,
idea.
but I don't know.
BQ1, BA5, BQ 1.1, XBB 1.5.
I'll have to go to the audience because I haven't seen enough cases to know. So just saying, after 2 years, that's nice. The one
Uh,
from Walmart.
One
Yes.
more. Yeah, I'm
Off
sure
of
it was.
somebody's skanky pajamas.
That lady in the frozen food section with her ass crack hanging out. I'm sure.
Yes.
So just
Um,
to go back to the earlier one, I just looked up. Actually, you know what? Let me make it more relevant. How much tickets would it cost me to fly to Nashville to visit AJ?
for our
Uh,
duet.
exactly right. Sing our duet. Do you know what the airport BNA is in Nashville? Let's see. It's telling me right now. It's not bad. If I want to fly like an off-hour one, like leave at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's only 8,000 miles
All
for a
right,
round trip. So I could get 3 of those.
there you go.
3 duets.
All
Nice.
right. Well, no, 3 different trips. I mean, if I come, I'm staying for a week because I got to do the
Alright.
hot chicken and got to go to the Parthenon again. And a friend of mine owns a stand-up paddling company in Nashville, so I want to go do that too.
Hey, no king shaming.
Yeah, yeah. That's outstanding. I can't believe I've never heard that joke before. Um,
All
I,
right,
I'm going to vote for the one with the X.
X.
Yeah, X marks the spot.
All right, let's do
That's
that
true.
one. Correct.
There you
Way to
go.
go. They got to make it sound more dangerous, so
Yeah.
they can put the X in front of it. Scientists have been monitoring a rise in several Omicron subvariants, but XBB 1.5 cases have shown the greatest spike, rising from about 4 to 41% of new infections over December. Question number 7: a bomb ass cyclone is slamming California this week, causing widespread flooding. Which part of the state is experiencing the storm's heaviest rain? Bay Area, Mount Shasta, Los Angeles County, or Big Sur?
I don't actually agree with any of those, but I'm going to say it's the Bay Area.
I
All
say
right.
it's the Bay Area too, just because Janice and Richard are our friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
City of Compton.
City of Compton, California,
The
knows
Bay
how to
Area, yes.
party.
Yep. Storm's heaviest rains and strongest winds have wreaked havoc on the Bay Area just days after a different storm brought deadly floods.
It's so funny the water crisis that we have in this country, right? Because you always have too much water in one place, not enough water in someplace else. It would seem like, and it points to a problem that we have, that water is not governed by a free market, right? Got water is subsidized everywhere. If you had to pay what it was worth for water, there would be people with buckets out in these rainstorms, right?
Or,
Collecting all the rain and driving them to wherever they need to.
or
Uh,
we have
Yay, Lions! Thank you,
yeah,
Adam.
yeah. Glad that Brett Favre was not in the playoff, or Brett Favre,
Aaron
Aaron
Rodgers.
Rodgers not
I
in the
mean,
playoff.
Seattle is in with Geno Smith.
Yeah, West Virginia.
Mountain
Uh,
Mama.
which company is the latest tech giants to announce significant layoffs? Snapchat, Amazon, Apple, or Microsoft?
I mean, latest is tough. I heard Amazon just announced 18,000, but it's
All right.
really weird though because those this is probably a selfish opinion of mine, but a lot of those jobs are not actually tech jobs.
No.
They are office jobs for tech companies. I agree with James.
All right. Oops.
California knows how to
The
party.
Amazonians are going to lay off 18,000 employees as the global economic outlook continues to worsen, the company announced this week. All right. Question number 9. The Republican Party has been at odds this week over who should become the next House Speaker. Which GOP leader sparked a days-long stalemate?
Yeah, I mean, we
Steve
just talked about
Scalise, Kevin McCarthy, Rand Paul, or Ted Cruz?
Eugene McCarthy.
So I did see a headline on Drudge Report today that or yesterday that called it the McCarthy hearings because he's been promising all these hearings into Joe Biden, the Hunter Biden laptop, the FBI, the weaponization of the FBI. Yeah, so neo McCarthyism.
Yep.
We will see what happens. Gosh.
Neo McCarthyism is a pretty funny thing to say.
Yeah. Question number 10. Which home goods chain recently said it has substantial doubt it could stay in business? IKEA, Target, Pottery Barn, or Bed Bath and Beyond?
I know this because I am
Beyond the
already
green door.
planning what I'm going to do when they announce it and all the stuff I'm going to get at their going out of business sale. And in fact, yesterday I went to the store and I picked out a bunch of things that I liked and I hid them so that when they're going out of business, I can go back and get them.
Scouting, you did a scouting trip. Nice.
Yes.
Okay, so with those clues, what would that be? Would that be
I'm gonna
Pottery Barn?
no. I'm gonna say
You
Bed
said it's
Bath and
what it is.
Beyond.
It is Bed Bath and Beyond. I'm very sure.
Is it? How do you hide things there?
Like sometimes I'll put things behind a curtain or like they have like drawers and they have sheets in them and I'll put stuff under the sheets, stuff like that.
Oh my gosh. I didn't expect a real answer, but that's genius.
Well, you can thank my ex-girlfriend Rebecca, who hopefully is watching the show. Hey Becky.
Thank you, Rebecca.
She we would go to there's this it's a chain now in Massachusetts called Filene's Basement, but they would have these incredible sales. And she would walk down the aisles with her hands, claiming that she could feel something that was the wrong size. She's like, somebody might have put something that's my size in these spaces. And then she, oh, that's mine. And she would pull it out. Sometimes she was right, sometimes not. Mostly not. But it was impressive. Oh, and then what was funny, so I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but we certainly have a scandalous story, Becky and I. But at one point in time, she took a second job where she was working at Payless, which is a shoe store.
Shoe store.
And yeah, and she like took the job thinking that get a little extra money, etc. But she got an employee discount. So like every week she would come home with like, 6 pairs of shoes. And the way Payless works is if a pair of shoes doesn't sell in like 2 weeks, then it gets like a 25% discount. And then eventually it can go all the way up to like an 80% discount. So she would take shoes that she liked and she would hide them herself and then put the discount stickers on them and then eventually buy them. So that like she would get like with her employee discount and the 80% discount, it was like 10 cents on the dollar for these shoes. So
Wow.
she worked there for a year, during which time I think she made like, she took home like, $500 and 500 pairs of shoes. It was
Jesus.
insane. Insane.
She's a genius.
All right, so we got 9 out of 10 this week. Low A, but we'll take it.
Yeah, no,
That's
that
better
was
than
good.
we've done the last 2
I mean,
weeks, right?
the only one we got wrong was because James screwed us. James,
Yeah, we're putting that on you.
It's okay. He accused me of not knowing who Bowie was earlier, so whatevs,
Uh-oh.
James.
I didn't know
Uh-oh.
anything about Bowie's birthday. It's there's what is the I was just talking about this about like some of the really good Bowie songs that people like haven't listened to, like Only Living Boy in New York. Oh wait, no, that's Paul Simon. Da, 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 da. Oh, Nature Boy. Nature Boy. That's what I'm thinking.
I like the Flight of the Conchords treatment of David Bowie. Bowie's in space. That's a good one.
I just started rewatching that. The robot one. The humans are dead. The humans are dead.
000010000.
Binary solo. We
Love
use
it.
poisonous gases and we poisoned their asses.
Yes, Flight of the Conchords is wonderful. So this week, Louisiana, well, actually on January 1st, Louisiana's new law came into effect. What new law, you may ask? It is a law that prevents you from going onto Pornhub or any other porn site. I'm sure OnlyFans also is faced with this, without providing some kind of form of identification to show that you're over the age of 18. And this is to include uh, like a digital license, a digital driver's license. Those who remember, what was it, like 6 or 7 years ago when the Ashley Madison scandal happened?
Yeah.
Having your personal identity linked to a porn website is going to have a very chilling effect, especially for those people in Louisiana. Also, I find it interesting that this is something to protect children, and it's probably going to cause a bunch of children have to set up Pornhub website access for their parents. So,
Well, okay, so I did consult Gen Z on this because I was like, okay, so this is the problem. And like an idea within 30 minutes, like by the end of the conversation was like, oh, well, what if you tried this? And it was like, hmm, that's interesting. Because I wonder how long it will take Gen Z and Alpha, I think is the next one. I
well,
wonder how long it'll take them to skirt this and how long it will take someone to take this information and use it against an opponent or a neighbor or and I mean, who's to say that they're not keeping up with it? How
yep.
many gay
Oh,
porns is
yeah.
our buddy Fred looking at,
Yeah,
or
no,
whatever it
for
is? I
sure.
mean,
And
this could be used to out people.
yeah, and the most of the people who I think most people generally don't broadcast their porn viewing, right? I
Yeah.
mean, part of the nature of it is that it's salacious and you want it to be relatively private. So I can't imagine anybody consenting uh well, it's an interesting question. Could you call this an illegal search? You know, there's a famous well, maybe not famous, but one of the worst Supreme Court cases in recent memory is Hibble, Hiibel. Uh, Mr. Hibble had a 15-year-old daughter who was dating a boy who lived on the wrong side of town, and he told her, "Don't go over there to see him." Uh, which, of course, 15-year-old daughters, yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. Is not, So she went over there, and at one point in time, something happened, and she called her dad and said, I need you to come pick me up. And he did. He came to pick her up. And as they're driving back, they started to argue in the car, as only fathers and daughters can do. He pulled over to the side of the road, turned off his truck, and they continued their heated conversation. A police officer pulled up behind the car and then came up and asked Mr. Hibble for his ID, which Mr. Hibble said, why should I have to show you my ID? I'm not driving. I'm parked legally. You have no reason to suspect me of a crime. And the police officer said, and this is all caught on camera, it's like, well, I'm investigating a crime. And he said, well, what are you investigating? He's like, I'm investigating an investigation. To make a long story short, Mr. Hibble refused to give him his identification. He was arrested for not providing identification. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court, where sadly Mr. Hibble lost. And the Supreme Court ruled that, and the argument that they gave was that somebody had reported a crime was happening in the car, that they had seen this heated debate going on between father and daughter, and that was why the police were needed to investigate it. But the police officer never said that at the time. And Mr. Hibble's daughter did identify herself as such. Anyway, so that really threw into question the idea of what is an illegal search. When can the police require you to present, as they would say in a World War II movie, papers? Where is your papers? And so, could they put up a toll at to websites? What's interesting about it is that I can't help but think that there's money there, right? We could make up a site that validates ages, and then when you give people a token that says this person's age is validated, and then the sites would let them go. And so that would be, but you wouldn't know who or went to what site. They'd only know that. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get what you're going with that.
So,
But it's
I don't
bad.
know.
y'all are old enough to remember going to the video store and there being the back room,
Yep.
and that's where the porn was. I mean, we all knew that's where the porn was, and
Oh, I
yet
thought
they
you meant
did
the
have to
adult
know who
video
you
store.
were.
I thought you meant the adult video store, which is where the back rooms where the blowjobs were.
I live in Warren County, Tennessee. I don't think we are that exciting. Um, and if we are, I haven't been invited, so what else? Um, but no, like all of our video stores, even like the mom and pop businesses, they all have like that back room, and they had your ID and they had that information. Now, I feel like that is a whole lot different than them having access to that because, I mean, unless a warrant is given, they wouldn't have to give that information out unless they volunteered it or whatever. But with
Yeah.
this website, like it's keeping all of that. From what I understood is they have to download an app
Mhm.
on their phone in order to create all of this, right?
Well,
So
it's
there's a trail.
it's downloading an app, and you have
Yeah.
to, so, like, on these new Real ID cards, there's, like, a barcode on the back of them so that you provide your ID card, and it pulls up the state's database. Now, here's the question. Let's say you get a suspended license,
Oh, it's not
for
valid
whatever.
anymore.
Can you not access Pornhub or OnlyFans or whatever? Um, uh, there's so many questions along the line here, but here's the one thing. I think this law is written by people who don't understand the internet. Most laws are not,
Or
um,
pornography.
or pornography. Don't understand things like virtual private networks
Yeah.
that can get around,
That's what
your
Tennessee said.
geolocation. Yeah, yeah. Well, you can get around your geolocation. Again, this isn't going to stop kids from seeing porn. They're way ahead of the curve on this. These are the kids. If you want to write a law that will prevent kids from watching porn, bring some kids
Well,
in.
and right, who's monitoring the violent stuff, right? Aren't
Oh,
we
I
doing
know.
that? If I can do the George Carlin bit again, like, people say fuck should be a restricted word. It's like, but I'd much rather have my kids watch a movie of two people fucking than two people trying to kill each other. Actually, I'd like to take it a step further, and I'd like to go through all the old westerns and replace the word kill with the word fuck. All right, Sheriff, we're gonna fuck you now. We're gonna fuck you slow.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, for me, oops, we're not breaking news. Uh, but I think we've just gotten to a point where we're trying to again, this is one of those it's for the children thing, but it completely misses the mark of
Well,
the people that it's going to impact. And
I would be interested in their stats on like, violence towards children and human trafficking and I don't know how many rape kits they got sitting there that are children. You know,
Yeah.
I would be interested in these for the children people to, I don't know, do something that actually benefits the
The children.
children.
Well, and the interesting thing about it is that I don't think it's an entirely bad idea because where porn has gone from like when I was a kid and we had magazines to now, this unrealistic objectification and friggin' poses that nobody no, I don't, you guys don't need to see that demonstrated, poses that nobody can do, and just
Ah!
exactly. But it's crazy. And so I think that having good conversations with kids about what you see in porn is not realistic, and what a healthy sex life would look like and stuff like that. At least there's a lot of porn out there that's regular stuff too, but or so I've heard. But the
I just read it for their articles.
yeah, exactly. I just I think that there really is a lot of merit to having conversations with children about what they're seeing in modern pornography and how that's as realistic as the Lord of the Rings is, right? It's just movies that people are making. But banning it is never going to work.
No.
No, because they're going to find a way, and it's going to be that much more,
And it's
you
gonna
know.
be that much more of a draw to
Yeah,
it.
we
Like, oh
can
my
do
gosh,
it.
it's illegal. I mean, it's just
Well,
like weed. Like,
go ahead.
well, I mean, it's just like weed that places that have legalized and taken away the taboo of weed, you see lower use among young people, lower use in the population in general, just because the taboo's been taken away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. We hear so much about, for the children, and we're trying to block them from porn and all this stuff. It's the same when they're like banning the books for pornography. I, most of this comes back to being a parent and being involved and being very, I
Yeah.
don't, active in your child's life, like knowing what they're doing and how long they're doing it for. I mean, if your kid's spending 12 hours a day killing people in video games, there's probably going to be an effect there. If your kid's spending 12 hours a day watching really violent porn, there's going to be an effect there too. It all really does come back. And yeah, as a parent, it's exhausting. I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
Yep.
I've been tired for 19 years. And according to my mom, it doesn't actually stop at 18. So, like, this is a thing.
Yep.
Um, when it comes down to it, personal responsibility
Yep.
and not controlling others, I don't see how any other way that this could work.
Yeah.
Just to sum up everything.
It would be nice to think that there is some protection. When people talk about the fact that one of the most glaring omissions in the Constitution is that there is no right to privacy. It's not declared anywhere. And the reason why, of course, is that your privacy is usually not from the government, but from other people. But it would be nice to tell businesses that they don't have to spy on their customers.
Yeah. It would be nice. I mean, just thinking about the violence and all that stuff that we allow kids to see all the
Yeah.
time. Um, you know, I remember the famous case of the of Rockstar Games, the Grand
GTA.
Theft Auto.
Yep.
There was the hot cocoa patch, which it would allow kids to, if you ever saw it, see a simulated, fully clothed sex act,
Yeah. It's
uh,
ridiculous.
which the grandmother sued Rockstar Games over. But in that same game, you could go break into a police station,
Yep.
grab a large pink dildo. I mean, it was like this long, and beat a cop to death with it.
Yep. You could get a machine gun and just shoot all the cops in the building, right? And as more cops came in, you could keep killing them.
Yeah.
It was insane. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and I mean that at least is cartoonish violence. I just recently replayed Last of Us 2, I mentioned it because the Last of Us movie is coming out with really just the best child actor I recall seeing in a generation. Um, Man, there is a scene in Last of Us 2 that is just horrifically violent, where a character that you care about a great deal gets beaten to death, and they don't spare much, and it's hard to watch. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's a game targeted to kids.
Yeah, exactly. So
So come on, people, wake up. Porn isn't porn isn't the problem. It's people's attitude towards porn that is.
yeah,
And
Yes.
part of that attitude is based on the fact that we don't talk about it and what's realistic. There is, I mean, we're so, if you'll forgive the pun, we're so fucked in the way that we deal with sex in our world
Mhm.
anyway, right? I mean,
yeah,
people don't, there's this mythical movie thing that, sex is easy and wonderful and it's always going to be this incredible thing. I think most people who have been there, it's work like everything else in your life, and it's awkward, and you have to communicate with people, and sometimes things don't go the way you planned, and you know
sure.
finding a way to share experiences is part of life. But instead, we have this thing where we don't even talk about it usually, right? And people don't have upfront
Mhm.
conversations about what a healthy life is, let alone what a healthy sex life is, and then how pornography has nothing to do with the reality of that.
Yep.
So that's
And
my
like
damn
AJ was saying that, most of the books that she reads are banned because of sexual situations. And if we actually had honest conversations with children about sex and you know, learning how to recognize, good things and bad things that,
Touches and
the
bad
world,
touches and
yeah,
Yeah,
the
proper
world would
names
be a
for
better place.
genitalia.
Yeah.
That's a big
exactly.
one. Proper names for genitalia. It's a vagina and a penis, y'all.
And
And it's
how,
okay to say those words because if something ever happens to your kid and they say somebody touched my hoo hoo or my cookie or
Right.
any of the other 5 billion weird shit things that people call their genitalia,
Yep.
they're not going to know what happened.
yep,
Yep.
So I'm sorry. And that was an Oprah thing from like, I don't know, 92 or something.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
like teach your kids the proper names because
There's
it
this.
really does start there. If you can't tell them this basic thing,
There's.
it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, there's some basic books out there. Uh, Our Bodies Ourselves, right? And just an amazing book for women when it came out at the time. And I can't remember what the number was, but something like 70% of women had never seen their own vagina, which is insane. Now, this is like 1972.
It is insane.
yeah,
But right, but it is, and we just have this sort of backward things about it, and then that starts to surround other things about it because you know now you have pornography, where I guarantee you, not 70% of people who've never seen a vagina, right?
yeah,
It's I don't know, we're whacked. Louisiana, I feel for you.
yeah. That's
Anything
sad.
in the South that is to protect children
Yep,
automatically makes me be like, yeah, fucking right.
right.
Like bullshit. I grew up here. Bullshit. It is not to protect children.
No, no. In
Laissez
fact,
les bonbons brûler.
I don't think that. I really do think that this is to cool off actual adults from watching porn. I really do. I think the idea again, we saw what happened with Ashley Madison. If your town knew your internet porn search history,
Right.
how much could people hold over you,
Yep.
you know?
Absolutely.
Anyway, good talk. So next week, Dan, we're going to be debuting something for you.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I'll let you guys know a little bit more about it as it comes out. I got a thing I'm working on. We're in stealth mode, but I will
Nice.
reveal it on the show. So a week
Excellent.
from today. I'm very
I look
excited.
Woo.
forward to it. Again, if you're out there on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or Twitter or wherever, give us a like, share, subscribe. Head on over to YouTube, give us a subscribe so I can shave this. You guys can see the baby face next week. And again, subscribe so you can see the YouTube shorts that I do each day to get you off on the right foot as far as what's going on in the world. So thanks everyone for watching, and we will talk to everyone next week.